Welcome to part 2 of my definitive Sonic Iceberg series, covering layers 4 to 6. It's obviously not required you watch part 1 first, but if you would like to check it out before or after this, it'll be linked below. Things are going to be getting a lot more obscure here. This is the first video with a few entries even I didn't know about before researching. So without further ado, let's get into it. Layer 4. Sonic 2 Time Travel. Yes, one of many similarities that come from Sonic 2 and CD's simultaneous development is that Sonic 2 was originally to have involved time travel. From this concept art we can see how this would have worked. Essentially halfway through the game, Metropolis Zone would have taken place, where Eggman finds a time machine, and you then chase him to the past, with you visiting past versions of the same levels. For example, here we can see Hilltop Zone was designed to be a past variation of Green Hill Zone, and after this you'd once again travel to the present, only now everything is under Eggman's control, with all the nature-filled areas being transformed into mechanical cities and plants. This is where stages like Chemical Plant and Casino Night and Genocide City were intended to go. I have to imagine this whole time travel concept was simply abandoned for being way too ambitious for a 16-bit title that had like 1 year of development time. Sonic and Sally's statue drama. So remember that story with the Sonic World Kyoto statue in the mountains? Well, the exact same thing happened here, only this one is a lot less of a heartwarming tale. So when Sega World in Sydney closed, this really cool looking statue of Sonic and Sally ended up in this random person's hands, and they decided to just throw it into their junkyard, leaving it to rot, to the point where they look like this today. The frustrating part is, even after being offered cash of any amount, the owners refused to sell the statue, and show no interest in repairing them or anything, forcing all Sonic fans and gaming historians to helplessly watch as every year or so someone will take a new picture where they just rot away and fall apart more and more. Shadow the Hedgehog Uncensored. This one's pretty wild. So there's actually two interesting things here. First, Shadow the Hedgehog has a beta that was slightly censored compared to the release version, most notably showing Maria's death scene in more detail. The second, crazier one is, according to Jason Griffith, there is a Sailor Mouth style alternate recording of his shadow lines with full-on swearing in them, like F-words, as apparently Sega was contemplating letting the game get an M rating in its early stages. Quote, "They had me record 2 takes for every line, and I swear, the version that was for the M rating, they had me say fuck in every single line. It was just every sentence. I would be yelling, 'Sonic, give me that fucking Chaos Emerald,' or something like that. I had no idea what was going on, but I just went with it. There's a hard drive somewhere with hours of recordings of Shadow yelling fuck at Tails and Sonic and stuff." Now, although Jason apparently refuted this article later, I believe that may have been at Sega's request or something, because I was also able to find another instance where he tells the same story through this Sonic Retro thread.
And I'm like, and people, like, kids are gonna be playing this and they're gonna hear swear words? F yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, here's a funny thing. When we were recording it, they didn't know what the rating was gonna be yet, so somewhere on a DAT tape out there is me as Shadow saying a lot worse than what made it into the game.
So yeah, I'm pretty certain this is actually real, dude. Those recordings are out there somewhere. We need to get those Lost Media guys on this, like, stat. SA1 DLC. With the Dreamcast very ahead of its time online capabilities, Sonic Adventure 1 receives several free DLC packs. Now, these are very basic, almost all of them just add a few objects in Station Square. For example, the Christmas DLC adds Christmas trees around, which when you interact with, play different Christmas music. And Japan got an exclusive one called Mr. Sega's Card Hunt, where you collect images of the Sega employee Hidekazu Yukara, who was apparently like a mascot for Sega at the time. Sonic Tree Hacked Cartridge. This is another Sonic creepypasta. This is also about someone playing an evil Sonic game, but this time it's at least a bit more believable, being basically a hacked fan game made by some schizo serial killer guy. The highlight is absolutely how it uses screenshots of the game in the story, similar to NES Godzilla. And this segment showing Sonic running through a stage that is made up of mangled Sally acorn corpses is genuinely pretty spooky and cool looking. Ring sound at gas station. For some odd reason, random gas stations around America will use the Sonic ring sound for their cash registers. I am not certain of its veracity, but I've heard this has something to do with the company Sammy, who Sega merged with, licensing sounds for use in pachinko machines. And then, the Chinese company who produces those pachinko machines also happens to make cash registers. Kinda confusing, but sure, I guess that explains it. Weknia. This is a very similar glitch to Ashura, where in Knuckles Chaotix, a glitch causes Knuckles to transform into this weird looking silver Knuckles with red eyes and gloves. I always wondered if the Mecha Knuckles from Advance was directly inspired by this. Maybe, maybe not, but Starline from the IDW comics 100% is. His name even referencing how Chaotix refers to Weknia as a line of stars in its glitch state. Sonic Edusoft. This is a 1991 Sonic game developed by Pure Tex, intended to come out on the Master System. As the name implies, it's an educational game where you basically do a bunch of basic math and spelling challenges. The most interesting thing is definitely the few unique sprites they made based off of Sonic's Sonic 1 model. Like, look at this, a back view. That feels so wrong. Despite seeming quite content complete, it was ultimately not approved by Sega and went unreleased. Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog Pilot. The pilot for Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog is almost lost medias. The pilot was sought after and only found in 2019. However, it is in insanely low quality and is missing music and sound effects. The pilot itself looks a bit better since it was animated in-house and runs for 7 minutes. Probably the most notable thing is the end section where Sonic himself tries to sell the show.
Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. It's fast and furious. I'm fast and he's furious. Got a juice, bet you can't catch me. At least not until the fall of '93!
Sonic mangas. There are a few different Sonic manga. The most interesting is probably the Shogakukan series, a slice-of-life manga where a little soy hedgehog named Nikki can transform into the cool Sonic to get out of trouble, kinda like Shazam. And then there's this more recent one-shot titled Jet Black Hedgehog, which is an adaptation of Shadow Generation's story that did well enough for the monthly magazine to launch a full-on original Sonic manga that's still ongoing today, Sonic and the Blade of Courage. It has 9 chapters so far, and it seems people actually really like it. I checked out the first chapter for this video, and yeah, it is pretty nice. I really like how Sonic's characterized, the art's quite good, and the story itself is sort of like a Sonic X-esque sort of deal, with Sonic hanging around this random kid and the two working together to save the world. Somari. This is an extremely weird bootleg NES game. It's basically like an NES Sonic where you play as Mario. Robotnik's Diabolical Traps. In Sonic 3 there are a few points where you can get stuck on objects, essentially soft-locking yourself. But this is not some programming oversight, at least not according to the US manual, as it insists they are instead Robotnik's Diabolical Traps, which take advantage of Sonic's super fast speed. The manual just telling people to reset their console if it happens. Lost World Launch Party. For the PC launch of Lost World, Sega held an open-to-the-public launch party at a bar in London. This event did not go so well. Upon hearing about this, I assumed it was going to be a thing where a bunch of Sonic fans got hella drunk and went crazy or whatever, but in reality that's only sort of true. The big thing is that there was a really crazy miscommunication where using the password Tails would allow people attending the event to get the Sonic Team drinks for free. But not only did the bar staff assume this meant all drinks were free, but the password spread all throughout the busy bar, leading to everyone getting hammered and rounding up Sega's tab into the thousands. Wayne's World. Sonic 1 can be seen in the background of a shot in the movie Wayne's World. The coolest part is this is an early demo showing the iconic Marble Zone UFOs. Scott Pilgrim. There are multiple Sonic references throughout the series. In the original comic, Scott is seen wearing a Sonic and Knuckles shirt, its 4th volume's title card looks like this, and the Netflix cartoon has this freaking epic scene.
You probably know this, but in the early 90s, there were 2 different Sonic cartoons airing at the same time. One was dark and dramatic, the other was a hilarious comedy about chili dogs. And the same guy played Sonic in both shows. Isn't that wild? The same guy playing 2 different versions of the same guy? Well, maybe you didn't watch cartoons, or you're not into chili dogs.
Shadow and Knuckles in Unleashed. In its early stages, Shadow and Knuckles were planned to be major players in Sonic Unleashed. It's unknown if they were to be playable or just show up in cutscenes like Amy and Tails did. Personally, I think it's reasonable to assume the Werehog segments were originally designed to be Knuckles levels. Toonzai Bumpers. So an American anime block on the CW channel named Toonzai aired a lot of original bumpers, and many of these are considered lost media. but I believe by now a majority of them have been found. Sega Choir Origins. That Sega chant that plays at the start of classic Sonic games is often misattributed to originating from the first Sonic game, but it has actually been around for way longer than that. Here it is in a Sega commercial from 1983.
楽しいゲームがいっぱい。
One infamous fun fact is that the Sega chant they did use on Sonic 1 actually takes up about 1/8 of the entire cartridge's memory. And remember that cut sound test feature with Sonic's band from all the way back in Layer 1? Well, it turns out that being scrapped is the reason for this insanely huge audiophile's presence, as it being cut late into development left them with a ton of unused memory they didn't want to go to waste. Amazon Rainforest plush. There is an insanely cool ad for Sonic Adventure 1, which I assume Sonic Team made themselves while they were visiting the Americas. It shows Sonic and other plushies exploring the rainforest. The crazy part is one of the shots shows them straight up throwing Sonic out of the helicopter down into the middle of the rainforest, where he likely sits stuck decaying to this day. I feel like that's probably illegal. Anti-Sony PS2 Club. In this random poster you can find in City Escape, there is a hidden message, barely legible in-game, but upscaled we can see it reads Anti-XXX XX2 Association. Combined with the text, "Don't turn off your Dreamcast," this is almost certainly meant to read Anti-Sony PS2 Club when you fill in the X's. Sonic Arcade Album. This is a 1996 album made by the German Arcade Music Company. It is actually officially licensed by Sega and is a wild listening experience. It's all electronic like club music, and it is based off of Sonic in that they are all upbeat, happy songs. Only 3 of these are lyrical tracks that I'd actually call Sonic songs. Of course, the most well known of those is the famous They Call Me Sonic, Knuckles' Secret Shoe. So after Knuckles opens the bridge for you on Sky Sanctuary and he's all tired and panting, there is an insanely hard to get Easter egg where he'll shoo you away. To do it, you have to be standing within a very specific tiny area and press down on the D-pad. This is so obscure and hard to do, it'd probably be like Layer 6 material, but everybody knows about it now because of that Cybershelf video, which is also where I learned about it. Mascot Costume Wrestling. So there's this kind of MMA cross pro wrestling company in Japan named Pancreas Wrestling. Basically MMA fights, but they are presented in the style of a pro wrestling event. Like a work-shoot kind of thing. Anyways, Sonic comes in when during the Shadow the Hedgehog promotional campaign, Sega accompanied with them to have Shadow himself show up at 2 of their events, which you've probably seen the images of before since they look pretty wild. Unfortunately, Shadow himself did not actually wrestle in a match or anything. From reports, it seems his appearance extended to an interview, and he presented an award at the end of another match. Bio-Lizard Piss. So when you fight the Bio-Lizard in its little pit, he is surrounded by a shallow pool of some kind of yellow fluid. Some have interpreted this to be his urine. I don't know, man, I always assumed it was some liquefied chaos energy, and they probably got the whole idea from Evangelion's LCL fluid. The Spax Stub. Spax Tree is a somewhat infamous old YouTuber. Like most gaming YouTubers of the time, he was mostly an inferior AVGN clone.
Games that make you want to kill yourself!
The biggest thing that set him apart was that he talked about Sonic quite frequently, most notably in his various insane rants against and calls to have Jason Griffith removed as the voice of Sonic. Spax was so disgusted by Ryan's voice, he decided to fix Sonic X by making his own redub, and the results are incredible.
The sky nice and same, the stars, the moon. Is this the power of the Chaos Emeralds? Is this another world? Or is it time travel?
Look out, Jason. Spax is coming for your job!
Sonic real full canon name. In the Archie canon, Sonic is seemingly like a nickname that Sonic uses, with his full birth name being revealed to be Olgphil Maurice Hedgehog. Sonic 16. This is a cancelled Genesis game developed by Sega's American branch STI, and as you can tell, it was intended to be a SAT-AM game. It looks like it was going to be a stealth game, with you walking around as Sonic and hiding behind corners and stuff. So I assume the strange genre for a Sonic game and possible confusion due to the cartoon stuff is the reason for its cancellation. Boob. In Sonic Runners, a typo was made listing Boo's name as Boob, and Sonic Team actually went as far as to release a full-on apology for this as a pop-up in the game. Sonic Omens. The most infamous Sonic fan game, Sonic Omens is a okay-looking game that is, if nothing else, pretty ambitious, but is really most known for its laundry list of controversies. The biggest is that the developers made money from this, which is like the one thing you're not supposed to do with fan games. Having a Patreon that's technically for the development team, but you know, we all know what you're doing. There is also moments of plagiarism within it, criticism for its strange, melodramatic story, and most insane, there being a hidden texture on Maria's underwear with the text, "Bad Girl" on it. Oh my gosh. Outrun Skid sound effects. Outrun's a pretty famous arcade racing game developed by Sega, and released all the way back in 1986. But if you listen closely, you'll notice the skidding sound effect is actually the very same sound reused in the classic Sonic games. Sonic Skeleton. In early beta versions of Sonic Unleashed, the opening cutscene actually gives us a detailed view of Sonic's skeleton. It looks really gross and creepy, which is probably why it was cut. Sonic OVA Reanimated. The awesome Sonic OVA got one of those also awesome reanimated projects in 2020. Titled Sonic Rebuilt, it's what you'd expect, the same movie only with visuals replaced by various distinct animation styles, switching animators every scene. I love this one that's in like the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog style. Oh, and they also got Chris Chan on this as well. Sonic High School. This is a Sonic fanfiction that is definitely made bad and crazy on purpose, but even considering that is something special. It's got the most hilarious, weird phrases and grammatical errors, absolutely insane characterization, like 2 sex scenes every chapter, insane violence, generally offensive and gross stuff. I mean, that makes it sound horrible. It's hard to describe why, but it's a fun time. Like, tons of YouTubers have done readings of it, and it's all out there on fanfiction.net, so assuming you're 18 or older, go check it out. Sonic Man. Everyone's favorite Sonic 06 NPC. Sonic Man is a die-hard Sonic fan, so much so he pretends and even believes he is Sonic. When you meet him, you can race against him in Soliana, where after beating him, he'll freak out realizing you're the real Sonic, asking for your autograph. Sonic had a rough transition. Sonic had a rough transition to 3D. This is just a phrase you'd constantly hear some variation of from pretentious game journalists and random game reviewers whenever they talked about anything Sonic ever for like the longest time. I feel like throughout the entire 2000s to mid-2010s, people just saw Sonic in 3D as a thing that doesn't work, and they always shat all over Sonic Adventure specifically for not being as good as Mario 64. Nowadays, this is such a cliche no one says it anymore except ironically. Sonic Armageddon. This is a film concept pitched to Sega by Ken Penders in 2003. It appears to have been intended as a continuation of the SatAM show, and as you can guess by the name, had an utterly dark and serious tone, as seen through these absolutely insane looking pieces of concept art. The story would have followed Planet Mobius being destroyed by Robotnik, and all the Mobians, I guess, waging a space war against him. As well as the concept art, Penders presented this storyboarded pitch video to Sega.
Whoa! This is way past cool!
Sonic and the Wonders of the World. Another potential Sonic movie project, this one was started by Sega themselves, working alongside MGM and getting as far as having a spec script written. We know a lot more about this one, and it's perhaps even more insane sounding than Armageddon. So we follow this kid named Josh Pinsky, whose dad is a computer scientist working on a supercomputer named the XRI, or Extremely Radical Intelligence. And when Josh hooks up his Sega Saturn and Sonic Extreme game to it, Sonic and Eggman cross over into the real world. From there, Eggman tries to take over the world by creating a virtual reality theme park that secretly ensnares kids, which he then roboticizes to make an army of kid robots named Kinderbots. Meanwhile, Sonic and Josh go around the world to find the Chaos Emeralds, which I guess is where the Wonders of the World meme comes from, ending with Josh and Sonic using the power of the Emeralds to beat Eggman and returning Sonic and Eggman to the world of Sonic Extreme. Duke Nukem VA. Crazy fact, Big the Cat's voice actor John St. John
Froggy, is that you?
is also the voice of Duke Nukem.
I've got balls of steel.
SA2 Test Stage. You can access Sonic Adventure 2's test stage either through hacking or some very specific actions. The stage itself is what you'd expect, an untextured series of different objects to test Sonic's interaction, like stairs, a grind rail, and differently angled slopes. However, the area itself is actually kind of creepy. I think it's mainly down to the lack of music and the fact you're in the middle of this endless black void. Rankles the Otter. The UK Sega magazine published this article in 1994, reporting on the secret Rankles the Otter character you can find in Sonic & Knuckles. You know, Knuckles' green brother with spike feet. Saying that the first to send proof of them finding him would win a whopping $1 million. This apparently caused some people to actually think Rankles was real at the time, despite the fact the article itself admits it's a joke at the end. But it lives on as some funny trivia, mainly due to the image of Rankles himself just looking really silly. Oh, and through a obscure palette glitch in Sonic 3, you can actually get Knuckles to turn green, so this was sort of kind of true, a little bit. Sonic R OST teams. People say there is a deeper story or meaning behind the Sonic R soundtrack. I'm not sure how much I agree with this, but the idea is that they're about like overcoming depression. The main point is parts like this and Can You Feel the Sunshine? Living in the city highlights the negative parts of life that causes the protagonist's depression. And then Work It Out would be them fighting to overcome it. Bootlegs. Like any super popular and profitable franchise, there is a ton of bootleg Sonic stuff out there. From fake games like Sonic Adventure 7, and everyone knows about Sonic 4 on the Super Nintendo. This one's just a ROM hack of a Speedy Gonzales game. And I've always been partial to Somari, the I guess you'd call it Sonic-like NES game starring Mario. That one's actually unironically kind of not terrible and pretty impressive considering its hardware. But the biggest offenders are of course fake Sonic merchandise. There's honestly so many random things I could bring up, like the ones you're seeing on screen right now, but the best is of course the iconic Obama backpack, featuring a yellow-eyed Sonic with a number 10 on his tummy for some reason. There's even bootleg Sonic food, like these pickles featuring the Sonic OC Ogorki. Professor Tori. So in the very first Tails tube all the way back in 2022, when Tails is telling us about the different places humans and animals live, he shows an image of various people. It shows various different pieces of concept art from Sonic Unleashed, all except for this one random purple-haired chick in the back. She's clearly done in a different art style and has major main character energy, but she goes unacknowledged in the episode itself, leading many to wonder like, who the hell was that? Could this be teasing a new human character in the next game or something? Then this develops into something akin to an ARG, with her randomly popping up in other places, letting us learn a little bit more about her each time. For example, a history book written by her shows up in another Tails tube. And if you look really close, you can find she's on a billboard in Sonic Movie 3, with the text on it translating to the name reveal, Professor Tori. Then in Gerald's journal from Shadow Generations, there's a letter to the Gun Commander sent from Gun's Archival and Requisitions Department, and it's signed T. So it would seem Professor Tori is a professor of archaeology who also works with /for Gun. Pretty cool. And then she'd finally make a full appearance in Tails Tube number 11, where Tails reveals her name is actually Professor Victoria.
Please welcome a personal intellectual hero of mine, Professor Victoria!
Excuse me, who are you?
She has a very unique, kind of regal voice, and her and Tails discuss ancient history of the Sonic world. It's actually quite funny when Tails tells her all the crazy shit Team Sonic got up to, and she's like, "Do you have any source, bro?"
See, I was stuck in a digitized state, and we kinda lost access to the ancient's databases.
Oh, so the basis for your claims?
Just trust him, bro.
Let's move on, shall we?
You're ruining this for me.
With all the build-up she's been getting, me and most fans are expecting her to play a major role in the next mainline Sonic game. With her whole thing being documenting past civilizations, that probably means we'll be seeing a similarly ancient setting as Frontiers in the next game. Maybe something like an open-world Angel Island? Sonic Retro/Stadium. These are two classic, very important Sonic websites. Sonic Retro is almost like the Sonic Wikipedia, storing information on like pretty much everything Sonic. The coolest is definitely all the old interviews and artwork they have so nicely archived and organized, which I've been referencing a lot for this video. There's also Sonic Stadium, which I've always thought of as the premier place for Sonic news, and it's got a cool forum section as well. Savannah Citadel Act 1-4 split. Yeah, apparently the night stages of Savannah Citadel had Act 1 cut in half, with the second half being repurposed as Act 4. This is inferred by assets for Act 4 being present in Act 1's files. I assume this was just done because it ended up being way too long, since there's a fan mod that puts them back together, and it's really long. Fleetway Supersonic. The UK got their own Sonic comic, this one done under the Fleetway Comics brand, and the thing it's most well known for is one, Sonic being a huge dick sometimes, and most famously, their unique take on Supersonic, depicting him as this crazed, red, swirly-eyed demonic force that overtakes Sonic completely. I guess the idea is they're called Chaos Emeralds, so they make him more chaotic and crazy. When under their influence, Sonic basically goes into a crazy rage, fueled by chaos energy. At one point it drives him to attempt to literally kill all the other freedom fighters. Sonic the Mobile. Sonic 4 really does not feel like it deserves such a prestigious title as the fourth part of one of gaming's greatest trilogies, does it? No, it doesn't. So it may not surprise you, the game was not originally made to be Sonic 4. This was really just meant to be a simple, cheap, quick game Sega could shove onto the rapidly growing mobile gaming storefronts. It was only after they decided to also port it over to consoles as a digital game the name was changed to Sonic 4, undoubtedly an attempt to copy the success of games like Mega Man 9. This can be evidenced by its heavy use of gyro controls, which don't even work on most consoles, and the literal giant Sonic the Portable sign in the Casino Night Zone they were too lazy to change. SAP. This strange symbol is plastered all over Sonic Frontiers itself and its marketing. Do you remember when this showed up in the first trailer and people were trying to figure out what it meant? I remember people thinking it was an A and tree for Adventure Tree, which I might have also believed. When the game finally released, the symbol generally showed up when Goku went to heaven or whatever, so the leading theory ended up being that it meant something along the lines of rest in peace. But we finally got an actual explanation in the Final Horizons update where Sage explains it's a symbol of the Ancient's god, and she also drops some not so subtle sequel bait with it.
But it appears the Ancients worshipped it as the symbol of a god.
They believed in a god even with all of this amazing technology? I didn't expect that.
Faith is an excellent way to shape a group's sense of kinship. However, the markings in the sky are a clear and observable phenomenon, and cannot be the manifestation of a miracle. Perhaps the god of the Ancients depicted by the wall markings still exists out there today.
Automation. It's a very prominent critique of countless Sonic games that the games are overly automated, whether due to glorified cutscenes like big loop-de-loops, or simply spamming dash pads, making it so you don't ever need to press a single button to get through parts of stages. I definitely feel like this is a fair complaint some of the time, you know, like Sonic Forces stage where you can deadass just hold down on the controller for a full minute. But I also feel like it tends to get thrown around a little too liberally, especially back in the day by classic purists to criticize the adventure games. Homeless Sonic. Is Sonic homeless? Should Sonic be homeless? This is something people feel very strongly about that the lore has gone back and forth on quite a bit. Most people prefer the interpretation since Sonic's whole thing is adventure and being as free as the wind. So the idea of him like paying a mortgage every month is just kind of stupid. And in the games, most of the time he's not shown living anywhere, and when we do see him, he's just sleeping under a tree or something like that. But sometimes, like in the Secret Rings for example, he very clearly does have a house. Other official sources like Sonic the Screensaver show him in one, but at least in modern times, he is homeless. Like there's a Tales tube where Amy implies he doesn't have a permanent residence.
Let's tackle some of your questions. This one comes from Chow are the best. Where does Mr. Sonic live? Does he ever get homesick traveling the world?
I don't think Sonic has a home. I think he just travels the world non-stop and camps out whenever he needs to take a break.
Well, he's crashed at my lab sometimes.
You maintain his plane, you keep your door open for him. I bet you even keep your kitchen stocked in anticipation.
Let's just say all those cans of chili and packages of hot dogs aren't for me.
And shout out to the airplane wreckage from the OVA. That's definitely my personal favorite Sonic house. Legacy Sonic. This refers to how for a short time during the dark era of Sonic boom, Sega started referring to modern Sonic as Legacy Sonic in promotional materials and the like. Leading to a lot of fears, this meant he was going to be retired in favor of the new Western appealing Boom Sonic. I remember hearing this at the time made me really scared, and there probably is an alternate timeline out there where Boom wasn't a complete failure and they did do this. Jeff Fowler Shadow. Jeff Fowler, the director of all 3 Sonic movies, actually has some previous history with the franchise. Before becoming a director, the guy worked as an animator, specifically at Blur Studios, the production company behind some of those awesome 2000 CGI Sonic cutscenes. Most interestingly, he worked on the Shadow the Hedgehog CG opening, and even commented on the craziness of him going from that to 20 years later adapting the character to the big screen, and it probably goes some way to explain why Shadow got so much love and was so perfectly characterized in that movie. Sonic's potential voice actors. So there were actually some pretty major leaks before Sonic Movie 1's release, and undoubtedly the most interesting thing in there were the reveals of potential castings considered for both Tom and Sonic. Chris Pratt was considered for both Tom and Sonic, because of course he was. Others considered for Tom were Chris Evans, Paul Rudd, Michael B. Jordan, and Justin Timberlake. But the wildest are Sonic's voices, which include Tom Holland, freaking Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory, and the weirdest to imagine is definitely Charlie Day. Bestiality. Yeah, there's a lot of bestiality in the Sonic universe, I guess. I mean, a lot of people in real life really like Sonic characters, so I guess it's not that crazy to imagine that the same is true in the lore. The most well-known example of this is of course Princess Elise falling in love with Sonic in 06 and her kissing him at the end. And in Sonic Adventure 1, there are multiple human NPCs that try to rizz up Amy. Sonic mascot for real space mission. So in 2019, a project to send out a rocket to study Jupiter's moons was set up by the European Space Agency, and part of the craft was developed by Toho University, who apparently asked permission to use Sonic as a mascot for the mission, which Sega agreed to, leading to this crazy, very real image that was apparently attached to certain pieces of equipment on the spacecraft itself. Cream in SA1. Cream can be found flying in the sky at several times in Sonic Adventure 1's overworld. Rejected Chronicles 2D intro. This really cool looking 2D intro was intended to be used as the intro to Sonic Chronicles. It's less than a minute long, so I'll just play the full thing as I talk here. Despite appearing fully completed, it ended up being rejected by Sega themselves, according to the developers. I think the most likely reason is that the characters are considerably off-model when compared to how they usually look. Especially Eggman with his crooked sharp yellow teeth. But it's nice we got to see it at least after it was revealed to the world in 2021 by its animator. Top 10 hottest Sonic chicks.
Sonic the Hedgehog, one of the greatest and most attractive characters ever thought up. He can run at sound speed, take out enemies in a flash, and best of all, he's blue-colored and knows how to handle the females. Speaking of females, the Sonic universe might also be classified as hot chick heaven.
This is a very well-known video by one GovTil98. I mean, yeah, it's pretty much what it sounds like. This guy lists the top 10 Sonic characters he wants to bone. It's a little based, but I don't know, it's like the way he expresses why they're so hot is what makes the video so infamous.
The rabbit's mother, Vanilla. She's attractive and is the size of an average human mother.
Like, focusing on Amy's 3 big, very smooth arcs of hair.
Attractive. 2 things that make her attractive are the fact that she wears a dress, and when have you ever seen 3 big, very smooth arcs of hair sticking out of a person's forehead? I haven't.
Or wishing he could see Wave take wing.
Wave will rock your socks. If only we could see her take wing.
Some of the choices are a bit more sus, and he actually allegedly did an updated version of this where he replaced Cosmo with Fiona the Fox, according to Wikitubia. There's tons of reaction videos and parodies of this video, and it's really the main thing Guptail is remembered for today. But I should also shout out his live action Knuckles stance, that was pretty cool. He obviously was embarrassed with all the mockery this video invited and deleted the video, but nowadays I think people have more of an ironic love for the art piece. Unleash lenticular cover. Sonic Unleashed was originally meant to release with a lenticular cover, so that, depending on the angle you view to that, you see either Sonic or the Werehog. Sonic Origins. The other early Sonic Boom prototype we know of. This predates the Sonic Synergy era of the project from Layer 2 and is just as fascinating. The biggest thing we know about this is that it was going to have a way different story than what we got, as the name implies, acting as more of an origin story for Sonic in general. It would have followed a time in the past when Sonic and Eggman were close friends, showing these really crazy looking designs for a young Eggman, and he was even intended to be playable in the game. It's said Sega shot this down in case they decided they wanted to do Sonic's backstory someday, even though this is a completely different continuity, but okay. Hero's awful development. You know, I feel like it's pretty common to hear people criticize and poke fun at Asuka. As the head of Sonic Team, he gets blamed when things are going bad a lot, but I feel it rarely gets highlighted how much good he's done, and especially how much he's sacrificed for this series we all love so much. And I believe nothing highlights that better than the brutal development of Sonic Heroes. Heroes was developed at what was obviously a very hectic and mismanaged period for Sega, and due to that, it was left up to just Asuka and one other member to do all the level design for the game. And even worse, that other person ended up getting sick partway through, leaving all the work just on his shoulders. In an interview, he describes how this meant he had to completely forego sleep that period and literally did nothing but work on levels, desperately trying to get them done by the deadline. It getting so bad he lost 22 pounds and, by his own words, almost freaking died. It's a really sad story. Crunch is very normalized in creative fields and especially in gaming development, but this level of extreme overwork and sacrifice, even though it's obviously wrong and Sega should never have let it happen, does make me really respect how much this guy truly cares, and I'm thankful to have someone like him leading the series. Layer 5. Drop Dash in Sonic 3. Yes, this is actually real. In a beta version of Sonic 3, there is just straight up a fully functional drop dash mechanic. It works the exact same as it does in Mania, except you hold up on the D-pad while in the air instead of holding the jump button. Egg HVC 001. The very first and laughably easy boss of Sonic CD, named Egg HVC 001, is a direct reference to Nintendo, who used the HVC, an acronym for Home Video Computer, for their Famicom system and accessories, making this a very obscure dig at Nintendo. Sonic for Real Justice. This is a Tumblr blog run by a group of self-proclaimed anti-SJWs, who talk about various hot topics while LARPing as different Sonic characters. Although really they'd spend most of their time getting into drama with each other, with pretty much every mod playing a different character getting kicked or leaving the group. The sheer absurdity of this whole thing, with every one of them being some form of LGBT, but also anti-SJW Tumblr users, and doing all of this as Sonic characters, makes it pretty clear it was a big troll the whole time, but it's still pretty fun. There's plenty of videos you can check out if you want all the lore. CD Tech Demo. This is an interesting piece of Sega history titled Sega Multimedia Studio Sega CD Demo. Sega showed it off at the Consumer Electronics Show of 1992 to show off the Sega CD's capabilities. It features movie clips in that glorious Sega CD FMV quality, scaling pictures, and pretty impressive sprite animations. And each scene has a transition of a little Sonic holding a spinning CD. Oran Ora Transports. This is a Norwegian trucking company that just straight up stole Sonic and put them on their logo. Not even like an OC that looks like Sonic, just full-on large-scale copyright infringement. I have no idea how they are still getting away with this, to be honest, but it's pretty funny. Brazilian government. In 2019, the at-the-time president of Brazil tweeted out this video announcing a new road being built, and it happened to include a very interesting choice of music. Specifically using the version of His World that plays when fighting Solaris, prompting this funny reply from the Sonic Twitter. Today in places we didn't expect to hear the Sonic 06 soundtrack. Sonic Ride. This is a really awesome 1994 CG Sonic short Sega produced. It is widely theorized based on the prevalent first-person perspective and the name Sonic Ride. It was going to be used as part of an arcade machine or an interactive movie or something like that at one of Sega's theme parks. But in the end, it just ended up as this cool animation, which was then added into Sonic Jam as one of the viewable movies. Illbleed. Illbleed is a true cult classic horror/comedy game that released on the Dreamcast in 2001. It sees you exploring a horror-themed amusement park, and the toy-themed haunted house named Boy Hunter Quark Goes to Hell ends with a boss fight against the ruler of Hell, this guy, named Sodic the Hedgehog. It's pretty clearly a demonic parody of Sonic. He even drops wings when hit, and an extra funny detail is that when we see the guy controlling the Sodic animatronic, he is voiced by Ryan Drummond.
I remember when you were a monkey. You got all excited handling the horror monitor. Talk about brainless.
Sonic Death Ray Pin Badge. In 1992, to promote Sega in Italy, a contest was held to win a Mega Drive, and to enter it you needed to have one of these, what is lovingly been dubbed the Sonic Death Ray Pin Badge. It's basically just a Sonic pin that has flashing red eyes for some reason. The main reason this gained infamy is because of the commercial for it, which has this really off-putting animation of a blue-armed Sonic showing off his Death Ray glowing red eyes. Quick and Silva. This is an Amiga game released in 1991. It is zero affiliation with Sega, yet it still features Sonic. He shows up as a generic enemy in the game. This whole thing is actually full of copyright infringement, also featuring the Bubble Bubble guy and a spring robot thing with Mario's hat and mustache. But the really crazy part is this game actually predates the release of Sonic 1, making this technically Sonic's first appearance on home consoles. But Rad Mobile still holds the title of his first appearance in gaming in general. Classic Sonic in SA1. Yes, so the modern green-eyed Sonic that debuted in Sonic Adventure 1 was actually added in relatively late in the game's development timeline. As we can see in a ton of pre-release material like preview images and concept art, the classic design was still being used. Russia Game Show. That's the intro to Sonic Super Hedgehog, a Sega-themed Russian TV show. The show itself is a mix between a game show and a gaming news show. All the while, this little mini Sonic hangs out in the corner of the screen, and he'll even react and occasionally say something with this really crazy sounding voice. Sonic Fighters 8 Emerald. Sonic the Fighters bizarrely features 8 Chaos Emeralds. I guess they just did this because you fight the 8 playable fighters in its story mode. Now you may think this means we're to consider Sonic the Fighters non-canon, but this was actually retconned in the Fang IDW miniseries, with Fang and Sonic talking about it, and then it being established that the 8 Emerald was actually the Warp Topaz the entire time, the gem thingy Starline has on his glove. Sonic 2 Special Edition. This is an unreleased, enhanced port of Sonic 2 for the 32X. It could nowadays be considered lost media. Okay, no, it's fake, but it is really cool. This comes from Something Awful user Doc Future, all the way back in 2007. It's formatted like an educational let's play of this ultra obscure port, and watching these videos, they're actually like really ahead of their time. Kinda gives a similar vibe to all the like personalized versions of Mario 64, but it obviously gets like insanely weird and leans into the comedy aspect more and more as it goes on.
I mean, I like Knuckles and all, he's just kinda easy to play. I mean, oh, look at this, see. He jumps way too high. He's just super cheap is all.
Sonic Hedgehog gene. This is real. The Sonic Hedgehog gene functions in producing Sonic Hedgehog protein. That protein's primary role is determining the amount of fingers you grow on your hand. The Sonic Hedgehog name comes from how, if the protein malfunctions, it can cause spike-like protrusions to appear on an embryo. And less well known is an inhibitor for Sonic Hedgehog protein was also created and named Roboticin. Climax Studios. This studio pitched a game to Sega in 2005 entitled Sonic the Shadow World. We only have one page of the 5-page pitch, but we do know it was going to be a 2.5D game on the PSP featuring multiplayer with a focus on Shadow and Sonic. The page we have basically just pitches it as like a grim dark Sonic game where you go through the Shadow World that's quote, diametrically opposed to Sonic's world. The bright blue clear sky, Sonic's world, is replaced with a gloomy foreboding cloudscape. Instead of palm trees and sunflowers, dead trees and poisonous weeds line the levels. Sega obviously decided not to accept the idea and made the rival games on PSP instead. Mandated car scene. So every single one of those little cartoon characters come to the real world movies has one of these scenes where they sit in the car getting driven around by the main human character. And especially with how by the numbers the first one was, it's no surprise to learn the Sonic movie has this exact shot as well. Sonic 1 hidden credits. So like many game developers of the time, Sega forbid their developers from putting their credits in the game they made, and instead, the end of the game sees all the team members credited under pseudonyms, like U2 for Yuji Naka. However, pissed off by this, they secretly added in a hidden credits with their real names, which you could activate on the game's title screen by inputting 2 obscure codes. Dynamite Ducks. This is a 1988 arcade game developed by Sega, featuring the 2 duck characters Bin and Pin, and as you can probably tell, they are the direct inspiration for Bean the Dynamite. They pretty much just made him green, then changed his species and his shoes. The name Bean sounds similar to how a Japanese dude might pronounce Bin, and obviously this is where the dynamite in his name and his penchant for explosives come from. Holographic labels. So, like Sonic Unleashed lenticular cover, Sonic 2 was also supposed to have a special, shiny, holographic label on its cartridges. Former Sega of America head of marketing, Al Nielsen, actually revealed these to the world when he tweeted out these images of the test prints. It can be assumed this was abandoned due to increased production costs, but there actually are versions of Sonic 2 with these labels out there, specifically the Nick Arcade prototype of Sonic 2. Hold out, programmer. In early prototypes of Sonic CD, where the special stages were not yet complete, when you enter one you get this very funny message. The programmer has a nap. Hold out, programmer. Sonic Zombies. This is a hyper-nostalgic YouTube series by Belina Productions. He does some really nice looking Sonic animations, but this series is more of a shitpost, being done entirely in Gmod with ragdolls flying around instead of proper animation. The whole thing's really crazy, it's purposefully kinda stupid, but it embraces that and ends up being surprisingly really funny even all these years later. Spanish Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog intro. So different countries sometimes make up unique intros for cartoons, and this Adventures of Sonic 1 is kind of a banger. But not nearly as weird as the Persian one, which is literally just Last Friday Night, the Katy Perry song, but in Persian with original lyrics. Sonic Live in Sydney. This was a stage show that played at Sega World Sydney, the same place those rotting statues are from. This is mostly known for being a major case of lost media. We do have a CD letting us hear the audio of the play, but no video of the performance itself. All we have are these images, and they show the puppets. There's something about them, I don't know, they're a little creepy looking. Tails Sky Patrol Origins. Tails' first spin-off game, the Japan-exclusive Game Gear title Tails Sky Patrol, has a very weird and obscure development history. So the studio behind this, JSH, were originally developing it as a completely different game based off of some mystery IP which was never disclosed. and it was intended to go on a different non-Sega system, which ended up going unreleased. After that, they shifted focus to the Game Gear and essentially remade the entire game, only to then have Sega come over and be like, you guys should make this a Sonic game. To which JSH then had to once again completely change the game, transforming it into the Tails game. This is why it's so weirdly un-Sonic-like, with its overly cartoony character designs, a human witch is the primary antagonist, and complete lack of either Eggman or any badniks. Even the gameplay is strange. The whole game has Tails flying and throwing rings around, with him instantly dying if you even touch the ground or any walls. But anyway, what was that mystery IP they had to remove to make it a Sonic game instead? Well, we actually got some very early development footage which depicts Tails and an enemy that looks strikingly similar to the Disney character Pete. Combine that with its distinctly Western cartoony art style, magical witch villain, and most people assume this is a Disney game that was then transformed into a Sonic game. Feet. What does Sonic's feet look like? This is a weird inconsistency in the franchise. Like in the classic days, we only get to see the character's feet in outside media. In the comics, they change depending on the artist, but generally look like normal human feet, and the same is true for the movie universe. But finally, in Adventure 1, it will be set in canon that in games, Sonic characters do not have feet and instead just have these furry, feet-shaped blobs. At least most of the time. If the design calls for it, I guess they're okay with changing this, like most prominently Chip, who has little paw-looking feet. Unless you have ulterior motives, I think the vast majority of people do agree that the blob feet are the best because they're the least weird. Ages. A similarly weird and inconsistent thing is the ages of all the Sonic characters. This is probably the most confusing and misinformation-riddled debate in the entire fandom. And when researching for this, I saw people with like completely all over the place claims for all their ages. Like I saw people saying Sonic is currently anywhere from 14 to freaking 30. As of now, it seems Sega has abandoned the idea of giving them canon ages at all, and keeps it purposefully vague. But if we are to try to pin down ones, in Sonic Jam, Sonic is stated to be 16. Then in Sonic Heroes, he's 15 somehow? But okay, in the modern era, Sega did mostly stick to the 15 age, even after Generations, which is his birthday, but he doesn't go up to 16. It gets even worse when you look at other characters, like Amy's the big one. When she's introduced, she's apparently 8. The same as Tails. But then in Adventures, he somehow ages all the way up to 12 while Tails remains the same age. And it gets worse when you consider people like Rouge, who's consistently put at like 18 or older, but she's constantly flirting with all these teenage characters. So yeah, I can see why Sega gave up on this idea. Trying to find specific ages is just pointless. But at the same time, the cast has clearly grown older. Like in Frontiers, for example, Team Sonic are characterized as being way more mature than they were in the early modern titles. Like, Sonic's voice even dropped. So nowadays, I think everyone agrees to just divide the characters into groups. Like, Charmy and Cream are obviously kids, we could assume anywhere from 8 to 12. Then most of Team Sonic would be teens to young adults like 14 to 20, and guys like Vector, Vanilla, and Eggman are all obviously full-on adults like 20 onwards. Sonic Smoke. While working on the opening animation for CD, Studio Junio created and hung up this drawing outside of their staff room, showing a really out-of-character chain-smoking Sonic in that distinct Junio style. Gamers12345. This is a very special YouTube channel. It hosts a, I guess you would call, Sonic Underground fan series. It mostly follows the cast of Sonic Underground, reinterpreted under Tamer's distinct writing style, just living life. Sonic is in a gay relationship with Bartleby Montclair, who is the richest and most powerful being in the world. Oh, and everyone has these giant asses. As you can tell, it is an especially weird Sonic fan work. In a similar vein to Sonic Chew or Tails Gets Trolled, but leaning into the Tails Gets Trolled side of probably being made ridiculous on purpose. Merch movie spoilers. So in the lead up to Sonic Movie 3, McDonald's released their Happy Meals for the movie, totally spoiling the fact we'd see Super Shadow in the film. The Dampa's coat. So the Dampa's coat is like a skinned animal, isn't it? I feel like Team Sonic's thing is like saving animals, and the Dampa's one himself, so wouldn't this be like super messed up in the Sonic world? Hideki Naguma's Twitter. Hideki Nagama was the lead composer for Sonic Rush. His music has a very distinct sample-heavy style people really love, and it's also seen on the Jet Set Radio soundtrack. But he's just as well known for his Twitter account. That became quite popular for how shitposty it got. And of course there's a few funny ones about Sonic. Like a lot of tweets fighting for the honor of Son Ace. Cancelled Adventure Remakes. There were leaks and rumors from the leaker Sippo, and backed up by others like Speed Supersonic, that Sega was working on both a Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 remake set to release in 2015. It's important to note these were not going to be handled by Sonic Team, but rather Sega of Shanghai, and there is actually some pretty convincing evidence presented. The story goes, Sega was impressed with their remake of SA1, so much so that they greenlit SA2 before it even released. And after the 2015 release of the Sonic Adventure remake was set in stone, there was a leak by Jazzwares stating there was a 2015 Sonic title meant to come out on all 8th-gen consoles. Which of course never ended up happening, with there being a very uncommon Sonic drought after that point, with the next mainline game not coming out till late 2017. So 2 cancelled games in between there does make a lot of sense. Finally, probably the biggest evidence is just around the time these remakes would have released, in early 2016, Sega held a Sonic Adventure music experience in Tokyo, accompanied by this album featuring 5 fully remixed tracks from the adventure games. As for why these never ended up being finished, Sippo claims he heard it was primarily due to Sega getting cold feet letting other studios handle Sonic after the profound failure of Sonic Boom, and the extreme cost cutting they were forced into after that and Sega's other failures around that time. Sonic X Season 3 never aired in Japan. Due to Sonic's lack of popularity in Japan and the series' huge popularity on 4Kids, the 3rd season did not actually air on Japanese TV, as the studio commissioning it neglected to bankroll a 3rd season, and 4Kids actually had it commissioned themselves. It did not actually air in Japan until 2020 to hype up the release of the movie, a whole 15 years after we got it. Sonic DS. This was shown off at E3 of 2004, and the footage shows it as a game controlled entirely by the touchscreen, where you swipe it side to side and Sonic runs faster the faster you swipe. It also looks like it reuses assets from Sonic Heroes, which makes it look really good for a DS game. This is likely because, according to Yuji Naka, it was merely a tech demo and not intended to be made into a complete game. Snake hates Sonic. So if you trigger one of the codec calls in Smash Brawl where Snake talks about Sonic, you'll learn he really does not like him for some reason.
Snake, what is it?
Something about that hedgehog rubs me the wrong way.
Oh, you mean Sonic the Hedgehog? But everyone loves Sonic. He's a big star. Do you have any idea how excited people are that he's here in Brawl?
Yeah, I know. But there's something about him I just don't like.
But why? You must have some kind of reason.
Nope. Just don't like him.
The most likely theory for this is that Snake's Japanese voice actor is actually the son of Eggman's Japanese voice actor, which makes so much sense, but also makes this so confusing for non-Japanese players. 2007 Sonic cartoon. There was work done for a Sonic cartoon in 2007. The series only has the working title of Sonic the Hedgehog, and the only material we have for it are these 2 pieces of concept art, which were confirmed to be real and intended for a Sonic show by the artist Greg Montalbano. They're quite interesting looking and have a very strong Sat.AM vibe, like I love the little far city where I assume the main cast would have lived, and then this must have been the villain's main base. Breaking Bad. Sonic actually shows up twice in Breaking Bad. Both times it's Jesse playing a Sonic game, so I guess he's a big fan. There's a part where he elects to hire a hooker to play Sonic All-Star Racing Transformed with him, and the part where he plays Sonic 06 of all games with Brock. Sonic knows the meaning of war. This is a particularly famous panel from the Sonic comic, where after Sally kinda dies, and Sonic realizes everyone thinks he did it, he gets ultra serious when fighting a bunch of robots. The narrator letting us know, for the first time in his life, Sonic is devoid of humor. For the first time in his life, Sonic truly understands the meaning of war. Sister Sonic. Another interesting cancelled Sonic game, Sister Sonic was set to be the Sega CD version of the game Popful Mail, a PC side-scrolling action RPG, with them completely transforming it into a Sonic game starring Sonic's sister. We unfortunately never even got art of what this sister Sonic would have looked like or anything, as fans of the original loudly voiced their displeasure with this idea, and Sega and Falcom ended up just making the remake as normal. Sonic Crackers. This is a Genesis prototype developed in '94 that leaked online in 1995. It's pretty clear this ended up becoming Knuckles Chaotix on the 32X, as it has the same ring binding system that game has. 06 VA error. One of many funny errors from Sonic 06, they just straight up left this guy misreading his line in the game.
E123 Omega has engaged Mephiles. Head to the Wave Ocean, head to Wave Ocean. Agent Shadow, E123 Omega has engaged Mephiles. Head to Wave Ocean immediately.
Knuckles Nike symbol. This one's really crazy. So apparently the reason Knuckles has that white stripe on his chest is that it was originally intended to be a Nike logo. This comes from an interview where Sonic 3 character designer Yuda Takashi refers to the white stripe coming from Sega wanting to do a brand deal with a certain shoe company, but it ended up falling through. Silver Super Shadow. There is an unused texture in Sonic Adventure 2 showing Super Shadow was originally going to turn silver. It honestly looks really awesome, and I do kinda miss different characters having unique super forms. Official Human Sonic. This image comes from a Sega-designed cover pamphlet for the 2001 Tokyo Game Show, showing what appears to be a human Sonic drawn by Uekawa himself. The theme is online gaming, which is why it has the text "Let's play together." It is not explicitly stated to be Sonic anywhere, but this is widely considered to be the closest thing we have to an official human Sonic design. Bomberman 456. This is another extremely nostalgic part of the old Sonic fan. Bomberman did a ton of Sonic content like a decade plus ago, mostly Let's Plays and mod/fan game showcases, to a very loyal and sizable audience. But he would unfortunately pretty much disappear after 2018, and when he finally returned to posting in 2023, his content was a lot different. He basically had an extreme, prolonged mental health crisis, which was linked to allegations made about him by an ex-partner and the passing of Etika not too long before, who he was very close to, leading to these extremely weirdly titled videos that made his audience very worried for his well-being. Just recently he did return again and is now posting relatively normal gaming videos. No one can know for sure, and I don't want to speculate on the dude's mental health too much or go into too many details, but I think I speak for everyone in saying I hope he will be doing better from now on. Jimmy the Motobug. Polygon Jim was a very respected member of the Sonic hacking community. He's actually the one who first discovered the unused Sky Chase Dragon we went over earlier, and is most well known for the awesome Motobug the Badnik in Sonic 1 ROM hack, which I actually remember playing quite a bit back in the day. Jim would unfortunately pass away in 2013 and was honored by his fellow community members in Sonic Mania, with the Heavy Riders Motobuggy rides being a direct reference to Jim's ROM hack, and the Motobug itself even being named Jimmy the Motobug. Yuji Naka's YouTube channel. Yes, Yuji Naka himself is a YouTuber. His channel's named Yuji Naka Channel, and almost all the videos are footage of him playing around with drones, so I guess that's a hobby of his. It's pretty cool. There's these videos of him participating in drone racing competitions like the minigames in Judgment, and some vids of him just flying them around for fun. But he hasn't uploaded since the incident. SA2 Submarine. So early in the development of Sonic Adventure 2, it was going to have branching paths depending on your choices, a la Shadow the Hedgehog. The example given is Sonic finding himself on a sinking submarine and deciding whether to save it or simply escape would change the story. This comes from an official Dreamcast magazine article. However, years later at Summer of Sonic 2012, Asuka claimed to have no memory of any plans for branching story paths during SA2's development. Put press start button. There is actually supposed to be a flashing press start button text on the Sonic 1 menu screen. When you see it put back in or in prototype versions before the error was made, it does look really weird, like there's just this big empty space at the bottom of the screen now. According to the cutting room floor, this happens because the Sonic Team % screen takes up more RAM than it should, leaving no memory to handle the flashing text. Breath of the Wild inspiration. This refers to the immense amounts of similarities between Sonic Frontiers and Zelda Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild came out a whole 4 years before Frontiers and was obviously insanely influential, so I do think it's more than possible Sonic Team used it as a point of reference. First off, Starfall Islands obviously looks very similar to grassy, ruined Hyrule Field. The world is littered with towers to climb, there's an ancient technology aesthetic, the ancients we meet are similar to the champions, and the titans are similar to the giant robot beasts we fight in Breath of the Wild. Most strikingly, Sonic Frontiers originally had Sonic suffering from amnesia, the very same as Link in Breath of the Wild, as evidenced by these unused voice lines.
This is for my friends. This is for my friends, remember! My name is...
McDonald's caused Tree and Knuckles. It's a widely believed rumor the reason Sonic Tree and Sonic & Knuckles came out as 2 separate games was due to Sonic Tree's Happy Meals. Sega apparently not having enough time to finish the whole game in time for the Happy Meals release, so they split Sonic Tree in 2. We did mention earlier how it's been stated the main reason Tree and Knuckles was split was a combination of cartridge memory, expanding scope, and an extremely short development timeframe. And although this trivia gets brought up a lot, in my knowledge there is nowhere it was ever officially confirmed this was the main reason, although I could believe it was at least one of many factors. Five Nights at Sonic's. This is what it sounds like, a FNAF fan game, but it's Sonic. The games have a very simple charm. They're clearly made by very young FNAF fans, but considering that, they are kind of okay actually. And I don't know, I like FNAF, I like Sonic, so having them together is just inherently cool. There's actually a total of 5 Five Nights at Sonic games, the first 4 being straightforwardish retakes of the first 4 FNAF games, and 5 being a prequel where you face off against Golden Sonic. I guess this universe's Fredbear equivalent. Chip Bracelet. So at the end of Sonic Unleashed, Chip leaves behind his neck thingy, and Sonic puts it on like a bracelet. It's like a thing to remember him by. At least that's how most fans took this scene. So then is it not really weird how he just never has it on again in later games? Like what the hell? It almost makes it seem like Sonic just threw it away and forgot about Chip. In reality, I guess Sega just didn't want to keep it around because they were allergic to any kind of consistent continuity in this era, but I personally always thought the bracelet looked really good on Sonic and kinda wished he could have kept it for other games. I like the headcanon that he keeps it somewhere safe, like in Tails' workshop or something. Wood Zone. This is another of the numerous known scrap stages from Sonic 2, but this one gets a special mention for how much we know about it, including a slightly playable early version. This zone was going to have been the past analog of Casino Night, being a huge lush forest full of trees Sonic would run through, conveyor belt floors, and branches he could bounce off of. It apparently had a largely vertical design, and that combined with the difficulty of making trees look good on the Genesis hardware is the main reason they abandoned it, according to Yamaguchi. The gameplay you're seeing on screen now is the remnants of the stage found on the Simon Y prototype. I honestly think this is my favorite of the unused Sonic 2 zones. There's just something about the trees contrasting with the huge amount of leaves and Sonic's blue that looks really pleasing to me. Sonic the Screensaver. This is a PC program Sega put out. It's mostly known for all of its awesome classic Sonic artwork it gave us. I mean, some of these are just so cool. The program would cycle through this artwork with cute little animations to prevent your old ass computer screen from dying to burn in. Influencer Robotnik. There is a scrapped plot point in the third Sonic movie where Eggman would have been a Twitch streamer, as seen in this deleted scene.
My eggheads. The unwitting live stream of Team Robotnik.
This is why he has that really confusing line at the end where he, quote, dedicates his final stream to Agent Stone. Sonic 4 Killing Friends. This refers to the, in retrospect, absolutely insane way Sega decided to advertise Sonic 4, having a website page teasing which characters would be in the game, only to one by one remove each of them. Because at this time, focusing on just Sonic and totally shedding on their decades of building up a cast of beloved characters was what a lot of people actually wanted. I'm pretty happy we've moved past this era of hating on Sonic's friends. But there's no denying this mentality from both fans and Sega themselves in trying to overcorrect from Sonic 06 was a really big thing at the time. Chao Garden mobile game. People have been on their hands and knees pleading with Sega to please make a standalone Chao Garden game for like the longest time now. Especially a mobile game just seems like a no-brainer. Like it would pretty much just be an infinite money printer if they wanted, but to this day it's yet to happen. Chao themselves have been getting a bit more of a spotlight recently, and adventure era nostalgia is at an all-time high, so who knows, maybe sometime soon. Don't underestimate my fastness.
I hate when people underestimate my fastness. I'm fast. I'm so fast, you couldn't even comprehend how fast I am.
God damn it! What is your problem? You're gonna ruin my fucking fan?
Layer 6. Chuck Yeager. In Japan, a promotional Sonic manga titled Sonic the Hedgehog Story Comic released right before the first game. The third volume features a guide and story which details Sonic's official Japanese backstory of that time. The story follows both Henry Gordon, pilot nicknamed Hedgehog, who because of that wears a blue hedgehog on his jacket, and Chuck Yeager, who's actually a real-life person known to be the first pilot to break the sound barrier. But in this story, they both break the sound barrier at the same time. However, Gordon's plane explodes and he dies. So to remember him, Yeager keeps Gordon's jacket and gives the hedgehog on it the name Sonic, because he broke the speed barrier, I guess. Also, other pilots start wearing the Sonic emblem on their jackets, and mysteriously never have any accidents when wearing it, as if Gordon's spirit is watching over them. Years later, Yeager gives the jacket to Gordon's daughter, and then she's involved in a crazy aircraft accident while wearing the jacket, only to be saved by Henry Gordon, who has been reincarnated into Sonic the Hedgehog, and that's how he came to be. It implies Sonic is a actual real-life jet pilot who, after dying, I guess was isekai'd into the world of Sonic, also becoming Sonic somehow. 4,000 Pontos. In Brazil, there was this Sega-themed game show named Play Game, which is mostly known for this insanely creepy-looking Eggman costume they had come out, accompanied by the very funny text, 4,000 Pontos. Clamp. Clamp is a legendary group of female mangakas. Their best known work is probably Cardcopter Sakura and the crazy doujinshis they made. They're the people behind Clamp in Wonderland, the famous one where Kakyoin lays an egg. And as you may notice, Sonic is also on the cover of that infamous doujin. That's because it also includes 2 short Sonic stories. They're only a page long, but they do give us these really sick looking human designs for Sonic, Tails, Amy, and Metal Sonic. Christmas card crossover art. So in 2009, Sega released this official Christmas card art, and as you can tell, it's extremely bizarre. The weird kind of realistic painterly art style and having Bayonetta, Sonic, II, and a freaking xenomorph sharing a wholesome Christmas together is just very funny looking. I love how even the alien is wearing a Christmas sweater, while Bayo's holding II like he's a baby. I also found these similar Christmas crossover art made by Sega over the years, so I guess this is a tradition. Boomy the Cat. This House Has People in It, airing in 2016, is one of those really weird Adult Swim short films they used to randomly air. This is mostly a horror thing, but also features the Boomy the Cat character, who's a pretty obvious Sonic parody. It also has a secret ARG website, with one of the things found there being a full-on Boomy the Cat game, where you run around eating garbage, and it ends with this striking image. Sonic the Wrestler. So there's a quite obscure wrestler going under the name Sonic. And it's not just a name, as looking at him, yeah, he's literally a Sonic the Hedgehog, but like a wrestler. Information on him is a bit hard to come by, made worse by there being another wrestler in CMLL who's also named Sonic, and they might be the same guy, but no one knows for sure. According to Cage Match, the original Sonic had 19 matches, with the vast majority being in the Derby City Wrestling Federation, with a few of them being archived on YouTube, including one match where he teams up with another wrestler who happens to be named Fang, under the name The Sonic Fang. Chao Death Percent. There is a speedrun category for Sonic Adventure 1, with the goal being how quickly you can murder a Chow. Right now, the top time on speedrun.com is 4 minutes and 35 seconds. Astropede. Astropede is a cancelled game pitched by Sega's American STI branch in 1993. The game sees you play as a robotic millipede who grows longer as you collect more body pieces throughout each level. Interestingly, it was originally pitched to have the titular Astropede be a badnik, and for it to take place in Sonic's world, but Sega shot this down. So then a 1994 prototype was made with no connections to Sonic, although to speed up development time, they did reuse the famous hidden palace zone from Sonic 2 to create the test stage. Scourge SA's Bunny Rabbit. Yo, it's the first time Scourge has showed up. He's so cool. A little unfortunate it's in this entry, though. So, issue 150 of the Sonic comic, unsurprisingly written by Ken Penders, sees Scourge show up and take over the identity of the real Sonic. And then, like, half the issue is just spent with him trying to rizz up random female Sonic characters. The most infamous is when he starts making out with Bunny Rabbit, and Tails gets like super upset when he finds them and Scourge just kinda shoves him off. Then the next page has a time skip to 2 hours later, where we see Scourge and Sonic still under the tree after a quote, long nap. Many people infer this to mean the two slept together, which considering it's Scourge tricking her into thinking he's the real Sonic, yeah, that's pretty bad. Neopets. In 2009, a Sonic Flash game was released on the Neopets site, made to promote Sonic and the Black Knight. The gameplay is incredibly basic. All you do is move Sonic in 3 different directions and he automatically swipes at these apples. I don't know, that combined with the like really shitty compressed sound effects and complete lack of music makes it a little funny for some reason. Silver LCD game. To promote Sonic Heroes, there were these little LCD Sonic games given out as Happy Meal toys. I actually remember I got one of these. I'm pretty sure I had the Shadow one. They were not very good. But there was actually a secret silver one you could get. Not silver a character, just a silver game that had a little hockey minigame. It was only put in 2,500 Happy Meals, and if you got it, you'd win special prizes. This silver game was considered lost media for the longest time, until Al's Supersonic Q made a video on the story in 2020, and someone who saw it contacted him showing they did have one of them still. Perhaps one of the only still in existence. Russian Roulette. This is a cut side mission from Sonic 06, which is pretty much only remembered for its really out-of-pocket name. It's named that because it sees you break a bunch of boxes with rings inside them, but there are also boxes with bombs, which if you hit will fail the mission. Man of the Year. This is a 1994 short animation Sega produced in partnership with TMX, the same studio who animated Sonic X. It was made to be played in Sega's Joyopolis theme parks, and was also included as a viewable movie within Sonic Jam. The short itself has no dialogue, and is just a minute and a half long. It sees Robotnik get pissed Sonic is voted Man of the Year, so he dresses up as Sonic and causes ruckus across the city, so everyone will hate him instead. It ends with Robotnik actually succeeding, gets Sonic voted as the Worst of the Year. Then it bizarrely ends on a to be continued screen, despite there being no part 2 or seemingly any intentions to make any continuation in place. The animation is amazing though. I absolutely love the cartoony art style and how most of the background is 3D with the characters being hand-drawn. Chili Dogs from Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. One of the very few things from the American cartoons to be carried over into mainline Sonic lore is Sonic's love for chili dogs, which was first established in Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. BioLizard the Salamander. The BioLizard is actually a salamander. Cheryl's journal tells us straight up, he created the BioLizard through introducing chaos drives to salamanders. It's also possible the BioLizard may have been Maria's pet, judging by this image showing her posing with one on the Ark. Nice Cock. This was a popular meme around the late 2010s. It originates from this Reddit post in 2018, and the original version actually reads Nice Cock Retard, along with the iconic Shadow the Hedgehog render. But later versions cropped it to simply read Nice Cock, and it took off from there with countless variations, switching out the words and or character. There was also the spin-off image where Rouge compliments you on pissing loudly, which was also pretty popular.
Damn, boy, were you just frying chicken in there? For real, though. You piss loud as fuck. I think that's pretty cool.
Knights cameos. Due to sharing very similar staff, the Knights franchise has always been closely tied to Sonic, with Knights making a ton of cameos throughout the Sonic series. Most famous is probably their appearances throughout Sonic Adventure. There's also a Knights Chow, a costume in Forces, they show up in Sonic Shuffle, and got a full-on DLC stage in Sonic Lost World as well. Sonic Discovery. During development, Sonic Mania was originally titled Sonic Discovery. You can even find assets for the title screen using the old Discovery name inside the game's files. Evangelion references. Sega was one of the companies that funded Evangelion, and you can even spot Asuka playing as Sega Saturn in one episode. But the craziest thing here is that Sonic Frontiers is absolutely full of references to the anime. A lot of these are subtle, so you might think it a coincidence, but when they're all lined up, it seems pretty obvious that Evangelion was a big inspiration for Sonic Team. Giganto looks very similar to the famous Sachael Angel, and its face bears a striking resemblance to the mass-produced Davis. Meanwhile, Supreme with his white, red, and black color scheme and wings looks even more like them. Then him pulling out a giant rifle and how he fires it is extremely similar to Eva Unit 1. There are also shots in cutscenes that look extremely similar to ones from Evangelion, as seen here, and perhaps the most obvious is Seige's whole character, bearing a striking resemblance to that of Rei Ayanami. They have similar designs and begin with robotic, emotionless personalities, while also both being artificial family members created by their lonely, genius father figures. This last one's obviously not intentional, but knowing this, it's very funny how both Evangelion and Sonic Frontiers had rushed, unsatisfying endings due to time and budget constraints. They later retcon with End of Eva and Final Horizons respectively. Shadow will go to Starfall. So it's a bit weird Shadow goes to Chaos Island in Shadow Generations, considering he wasn't even in Frontiers, but Gerald explains this by saying, "I would speculate you've experienced these places in the future." Could this be foreshadowing Shadow exploring the islands in a future game? Perhaps Frontiers 2? Cancelled Mania 2. In 2025, Christian Whitehead showcased 2 screenshots from a cancelled Sonic Mania 2. They look really wild. It looks like it was going to have this 2.5D style with 3D assets instead of the beautiful pixel art of the first game. The reason this ended up not happening is apparently due to Christians and Evening Star wanting to do full 3D games and start up their own IPs. But it's clear Sega took heavy inspiration from this when doing Sonic Superstars. Theodore Roosevelt. Yes, the very first conception of Eggman was part of Sega's internal campaign to design a new mascot, which resulted in Sonic's birth. This beta Eggman wears pajamas and is intended as a character of the former US President Theodore Roosevelt, who's known for his big-ass mustache, and then there's that popular picture of him with a giant grin that looks particularly Robotnik-like. Chaos is a Chow. So Chaos is kind of like the god of Chow, and it's the one who protects them. But it is widely held belief Chaos himself is a Chow, and this is actually not just fanon, as the official Japanese strategy guide outright states it to be fact, calling him a transformed Chow, most likely mutated from the energy of the Emeralds. 06 Wii port. Sega actually intended to release Sonic 06 on the Wii alongside the other 7th gen versions. 06's Wii port was supposedly cancelled just because they couldn't get it to run on the hardware, and it would have essentially required remaking the whole game from the ground up. And instead they opted to cut Sonic 06's team in half and have them do the secret rings instead. Sonic over Mickey Mouse. According to Sega of America's old lead of marketing, Al Nielsen, during a countrywide survey in 1992, Sonic was found to be more recognizable in the 6 to 11 demographic than even Mickey Mouse. Vector X Vanilla. Vector canonically has a crush on Vanilla, and it's implied Vanilla may like him as well, but it has never been outright confirmed if the two are currently in a relationship. This has its origins in Sonic X, and Sega themselves actually went out of their way to ask Ian Flynn to introduce it into the main continuity through the IDW comics.
There was actually a note from Sega saying in Sonic X,
there was kind of a thing where Vector had a crush on Vanilla. We would like to see that come back. That might be funny. And I was like, yes, you are absolutely right. I was going to try to do that anyway and see if it got approved. Thank you for going there already.
Sonic the Hedgehog. These simple stick figure looking interpretations of Sonic characters were apparently used to pitch game mechanics internally during the development of the classic Sonic games, and would then be featured in the Japanese manuals. From this point it kind of became a tradition, and these Hedgehog style illustrations of Sonic characters would show up in various places, such as a Sonic the Hedgehog Endless Runner mobile game, a series of line stickers, and various pieces of merchandise. Sonic Tonic. This is a substance that appears in Sonic Underground. If you pour the potion on your feet, it'll grant you super speed similar to Sonic. However, it has the side effect of making your feet grow super big, and the only way to get rid of it is through sweating it out. Silver is Shadow's son. There is a fan theory out there that Silver is actually the son of Shadow. Knowing the logistics of this working, what with Silver being from so far in the future, the main points here are that they both have the chest fur thingy, are kind of close in 06 with Shadow sort of being like a mentor figure to him, and the fact that Shadow takes on the role of Sir Lancelot, while Silver is Garland, the son of Lancelot in the legend. And probably the closest thing to a convincing point is that Silver is based off of Trunks. Shadow is based off of Vegeta, with Trunks being Vegeta's time-traveling son in Dragon Ball. When it comes to his mother then, the most common choice is actually Amy. I think this is just because it's like a popular ship, as the only real connection I could find is Amy's use of magical tarot cards and Silver's psychic powers. Dr. Kentober. So we went over Sonic's insane original Japanese origin story earlier, but what Sega of America was cooking up is even wilder. Found in the Sonic Bible, this is the tale of one Sonny the Hedgehog and Dr. Ovi Kentobar. So Dr. Kentobar was a nice guy, a genius scientist who helped injured animals and was working on the amazing transformation machine which would allow him to remove all evil energy across Mobius and store it inside of the Chaos Emeralds. While working on this, he comes across one hibernating brown Mobian hedgehog, Sonny. Then the two become friends, with Sonny helping with his experiments while Kentobar teaches him to speak English. But one day, while Sonny is running on a treadmill in the lab, he goes so fast he breaks reality and physics, making him turn blue because of something it calls the Advanced Non-Consecutive Cobalt Effect. And because of this, Kentobar renames him to Sonic. As for how Kentobar turns into Robotnik, well, while holding an egg, the emeralds get exposed to radiation, shooting all their evil energy at him, transforming him into the fat, evil Dr. Ivo Robotnik. I have no freaking idea what the hell was with Sega making Sonic's backstory so insanely complicated and bizarre back then. This obviously was rendered non-canon by the time we got to the adventure games, but slightly different versions of this backstory were adapted into both the Fleetway and Archie Sonic comics. Echidna texture error. There is a major error present in the OG Dreamcast version of Sonic Adventure where the other echidnas storing the temple with Pachumak are assigned the complete wrong textures. You can't really tell in-game because of the red lighting, but when that's removed they look like this. And there's another more egregious glitch where Pachumak's eye texture is entirely wrong, making it appear like he has blank white eyes for like the entire game. Sonic Japanese VA lore. Sonic's Japanese voice actor used to be an English teacher. He's also been the voice of Sonic ever since Sonic Adventure 1, which is pretty cool. His past profession may have influenced why Sonic will so often say English phrases.
Come on! Yo, Knuckles! Done it! What? Hey guy! Hey cat!
Shadow Gen censorship. When Shadow Generations came out, they made a lot of changes to, I guess, soften the original script and cutscenes of the OG Generations. They removed that funny slapstick scene where Amy pushes Knuckles out of the way after he says Sonic wasn't too bad.
I'll admit, you weren't half bad, Sonic.
Half bad? Are you kidding? He was all great!
I'll admit, you weren't half bad, Sonic.
Half bad? Are you kidding? He was all great!
I think this is maybe the worst, as it just makes the scene way less funny for seemingly no reason. It's like the writers didn't want to make Amy seem stronger or something. Or maybe they thought she was too mean here. They also removed Sonic pushing her away when she's trying to hug him in the intro, instead having her awkwardly stand by with cupcakes. Oh, and Knuckles' fat joke at Sonic is removed.
Thanks, Sonic. You did a good job back there. Hey, did you gain weight?
Thanks, Sonic. Now then, tell me, where is the rest of my island?
This one's also just so bizarre. I feel like the old joke is like really funny, and I don't know, did they think people were seriously going to be offended by this or something? Also, they didn't change the cutscene, so when Knuckles asks him where Angel Island is and Sonic rubs his belly, it almost makes it look like he ate it. And then the most infamous is that they covered up Rouge's boobs. What the hell? This one is probably the most understandable, honestly. I could imagine maybe like Zero or the ESRB requested to change, since they can be totally arbitrary and inconsistent with their censorship. Sonic Rangers. Sonic Rangers was the original name used for Frontiers. We know this from two major 4chan leaks back in early 2021 from people who claimed to have playtested the game, which referred to a ghost girl, described the open zone with towers and mini-bosses you beat to unlock orbs that let you enter cyberspace stages. And they even describe a move called the Spin Cycle, which must have been the early name for the Psyloop. Espio X Infinite. In the Chaotix case file, Rouge is heard heavily flirting with Espio, who completely Sigma stonewalls her. She's seemingly trying to get on his good side to take advantage of him and steal the astropic lens.
Maybe I could make it up to you. How about you and I get together for a little stealthy adventuring later? Just the two of us?
What? And abandon my team in the middle of a case? I could never do such a thing.
Of course you couldn't. Forget I mentioned it.
But since Infinite uses those same lenses to take the form of other characters throughout the series, many thought this could have been Infinite taking the form of Rouge, making the scenes read a lot funnier with Infinite trying desperately to rizz up Espio, and creating a new ship for the fandom. Soap Shoes Plush. This 2001 Sonic Adventure 2 Sonic Plush is especially notable for including the beloved soap shoes, but unfortunately is also insanely rare. Because of that, it nowadays is an insanely sought after collector's item, which regularly sells for, I am not kidding here, upwards of $2,000. Spinball options music. The options music for Sonic Spinball is particularly infamous for sounding like this. I think it has the most pronounced case of Genesis twang of anything I've heard in my life. But did you know the song is not actually meant to sound like this? It actually has an error where the doing 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 instrument is set to be way louder than intended, which is why the song is almost physically painful to listen to. Here's a fixed version of what it's actually supposed to sound like. Good Blood Sonic Reboot. In 2015, YouTuber Goodblood made a video pitching a reboot to fix Sonic. This guy's actually a game dev himself and clearly has talent, especially in the high effort concept animations, but the whole thing has a pretty pretentious tone, like he's talking down to Sega and Sonic's directors. And then the highlight is the reveal of his Sonic redesign.
So let's bring in Sonic.
I love the goddamn dramatic music. So basically the video says Sega should turn Sonic into a painfully generic indie platformer of the time, complete with a design he says has no character. Like that's a positive, especially for Sonic. I mean, it's not all completely awful. I like the part where he pitches that you can store the Sonic tree in Knuckles shields, then use them for like puzzles. That's actually kind of similar to the power-ups in Superstars now that I think about it. But for the most part, he's just saying Sega should remove all of Sonic's unique identity, both gameplay and character-wise, and this will somehow make him appeal more to Sonic's core fan base of nostalgic man-children, by making it nothing like the Sonic we remember. The video was quickly taken down after being universally mocked, but the creator made a few Twitter posts years later where he admits the video was kinda half-assed and not very good, but he sees it as a good learning opportunity. Which, yeah, I respect. We've all made bad art in our past, It's a necessary part of growing as a creative, so no hate to him, but even today the video is still really funny. Amy in Sonic Movie 1. Did you know Amy Rose showed up all the way back in the first Sonic movie? When Tom and Maddie are looking at Silo, if you look really close, there's a realtor named Amy Rose. Shit rock yeah. When Knuckles does his punch combo in SA2, it sounds like he's saying this.
Shit rock, yeah! Shit rock, yeah!
IGN Frontiers reveal. So the very first gameplay footage of Sonic Frontiers was released by IGN, and oh my god, it was awful. Like, it actively made the game look 10 times worse than it actually was. And this is gameplay Sega sent to IGN, by the way, so you can't even blame them. For whatever reason, they thought the best way to show off the new exciting open world Sonic game was to have the player walk around the map as slowly as possible and constantly stop to move the camera for no reason. And on top of that, instead of focusing on the epic boss fights, cyberspace, or complex platforming sections, they highlight the puzzles, the most boring, lazy aspect you could possibly show. Frontiers is actually my second favorite 3D Sonic game, behind SA2, but when this came out, I actually thought the game was going to be straight ass. It was that bad. Vandalized censorship. The song Vandalized by A.OK. Rock that features in Sonic Frontiers actually had to be censored in the game. If you listen to the original version, it has the lyrics, "Fuck the pain away, my bed is in ruins." Oh, which is changed to "Fight the pain away, my head is in ruins" in Frontiers. Sonic Fighters Esport. Sonic the Fighters is actually surprisingly deep when you dig into it, and yeah, there is a competitive scene for it, with a few big time tournaments even taking place. Styx and Tangle in Frontiers. Frontiers officially canonizes Tangle and Styx through these two lines.
I wonder if Cream and Styx are free. Make a road trip out of it.
I bet Tangle would love climbing around these ruins.
Tangle makes some sense since IDW is basically canon, but Styx? That's pretty crazy, and seems to heavily imply we'll see a mainline version of her showing up at some point. The Sonic 4 rant. Richard Kuda is a true blue die-hard classic Sonic fan. He's even gone as far as to try to personally get a third season of SatAM made, which didn't go so well. He's quite infamous for that whole debacle and other stuff, but his biggest impact on the Sonic community would have to be this video, the Sonic 4 rant/trailer reaction. It seems Richard is sitting in a dark room, clutching his classic Sonic plush, over the moon to see the return of classic Sonic. Only for the reveal to happen, and...
Here we go. You ready for this, buddy? We waited over, what, 16, 17 years for this? It's your long-awaited comeback, yay! Here we go! Sonic the Hedgehog 4! Oh, classic! Yeah, Sonic 3, yeah! Oh, there's a motorbug! Okay. Mixed reactions here. Sorry, buddy. This is not exactly what I anticipated. Oh, God. Oh my.
He then proceeds to spend like another 5 minutes completely losing it over not the ugly graphics or bad gameplay. No, he's only upset because Sonic has green eyes.
I mean, where is the classic Sonic? The classic black-eyed, beady-eyed Sonic fighting Dr. Robotnik in the classic Genesis form? Is that so hard to understand?
Snoot Boy. This is a bootleg Sonic figure that was actually part of a bootleg Mario series, lovingly dubbed Snoot Boy by the internet due to his extremely pronounced nose. There also happens to exist these alternate colored versions that are meant to be other characters. They look amazing. Sonic Eclipse. So we just went over how 4chan saw leaks of Sonic Frontiers under the Sonic Rangers name. Well, the very same thing seems to be happening again for the next Sonic game, apparently to be titled Sonic Eclipse. The post detailed it as an open-world sequel to Frontiers with multiple playable characters, including Shadow and Silver, as well as the guys from Final Horizon. The main hook is apparently that you can travel between the real and Eclipse dimension. Most leaks also mention a Unleashed remaster, including a playable Amy Rose side story in a similar vein to Shadow Gens. However, they also make predictions for Crossworld, which did not happen, and Eclipse did not show up at any of the dates given, so these leaks are probably fake. Exploding Baby. This is a particularly infamous clip from Sonic Underground, where a giant robot Sonic baby falls and explodes. It's so insanely weird and funny out of context. Also, shout out to that one scene where Knuckles is falling off a cliff and Sonic reaches out to him, but then the perspective is all over the place, making Sonic look like a giant, and Knuckles keeps changing sizes with each cut. Shadow E3 statue. Sega decided to have this really cool Shadow statue when promoting his game at E3, but it also was obviously very funny looking with him holding a Glock, so there's a ton of funny pictures of people at the event posing like he's about to shoot them. King Boo Boom lore. In Tales Cube number 8, Tails tells the story of a king who searches a pyramid for an ancient talisman, only by the time he reaches it, all his knights have been mysteriously taken out, and once he takes the talisman, the ghosts warn him of a price. That price turns out to be his life, and he dies right there, and is doomed to haunt the pyramid forever as the big ghost we now know as King Boo Boom. Sonic is the true ultimate life form. There is a secret line during SA2's final boss where you can hear Shadow say he thinks Sonic may be the true ultimate life form.
Sonic, I think I've discovered what the ultimate life form is. It might be you.
Knack is not a weasel. Despite the name, Knack is actually meant to be a jerboa. This is actually because the whole weasel part of his name was added on by the US team, since they didn't think his Japanese moniker, Fang the Sniper, would fly over here. The Miles Code. Pressing up up down down up on the title screen of Sonic 2 will change all times Tails is called Tails, be Miles instead, his Japanese name. And also, doing the same code playing on the Japanese version will change his name from Miles to Tails. F1 ad controversy. Sonic did this ad collab with this F1 company, and for whatever reason, they used AI for this scene where the guy's looking at Sonic on his computer. It really sucks because the animation on Sonic and Tails is actually amazing. Like, the animation team did an absolutely phenomenal job. But then the post-production people apparently decided to add this in, and McLaren signed off on it, which, even though it only appears for a second, is a really unfortunate black mark on the whole thing that kind of overshadowed all the discussion about it. Amy's Buzzsaw. In Sonic R, Amy's quite unique in that she actually drives a car, and in the unused files, we can see at some point, to level the playing field, her car was going to be equipped with a giant buzzsaw to cut through the other racers. Sonic Genesis GBA. Sonic 06 releasing was rough enough for Sonic, but that very same month another Sonic game came out that was, I personally think, actually even worse. Sonic Genesis, a GBA port of Sonic 1, has a 33 on Metacritic and is largely forgotten today, which is probably for the best. It's just a version of Sonic 1 with absolutely abysmal screen crunch, meaning you literally can't see the platform you're jumping on or any oncoming obstacles like half the time. It also has completely broken physics, botched sound effects, and insanely bad slowdown. But they did add the spin dash, that's something. Frontiers Alternate Awakening animation. There is an unused animation in Frontiers for when you get the infinite boost. The one in the final game is actually a pre-rendered cutscene that's a direct reference to the Sonic movie, whilst the original looks like this. Sonic's Big Fat Adventure. Very wild comic made by one Tyson Hess.
It's Arms, a magical kitsune, Sonic's new best buddy. Kitsune is Japanese for two on fox.
Even though I was born with these two freakish arms, I learned how to fly with them, and now I can help you cross! Grab on tight!
Oh, great! A wall! You're kind of a bitch. Oh, shit! Oh, Jesus! Oh, stop, man! Don't hurt me! Oh, my mistake. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Nibbles the Enchilada. I can break through stone with my rock-hard fist nipples. Boy, it's chilly today.
Bro went from this to officially working on the series and even helming the movie redesign. That's just straight up beautiful. Christian and the Hedgehog Boys, a studio album recorded by the famous Chris Chan, most notable for its striking cover art, featuring both Sonic, Shadow, her Sonic 2 OCs, as well as Chris themselves, throwing up a peace sign, and featuring such hits as Virgin with Rage.
Tell me why I'm stuck as a virgin with rage. Tell me why I so need a cute girl my age.
Movie Big. Apparently in Sonic Movie 2, an early script had Sonic and Tails come across the decaying skeleton of Big the Cat in a cave when they're in the snowy mountains. It was apparently cut not because it was too disturbing or cruel to Big, but just because it didn't make any sense in the story, according to the main writers. Aaron Webber forces revisions. In 2018, a leaked early script for Sonic Forces came out, and it happened to include various notes made during its writing written by Aaron Webber, which are actually so humorous to read because it sounds like he was getting pissed off reading this the same way all the other Sonic fans were getting angry playing it. For the part where Tails is cowering in fear before Classic Sonic saves him, Aaron notes, "Tails defeated Eggman alone in SA1. Why is he suddenly so weak here? Just dramatic effect?" When Silver pops up, he writes, "What? Silver? Why is he here?" For the infamous part where Tails refers to Classic Sonic as that Sonic from another dimension, Aaron goes, "Why doesn't Tails remember Generations?" And the funniest is when everyone's cheering on the OC and Sonics for the final boss fight, he writes, "Ugh, we do this every time, every single time. Generations end, 06 end, SA2 end, all of them. Why?" And that's it. The next part will be the last, going over layers 7 to 10. I'm not sure yet, but I think it might end up being the longest part of all, and I'll try to get it out relatively quick, but I'm not going to give an exact date or anything this time because I always underestimate how long these videos take. Until next time, thanks for watching.